Hello and welcome back to Factorio Tightening the Belt Megabase Guide. I'm Xterminator and thank you for joining me again. So we're back where we left off. We've finished grenades for the military science and now it's time to work on the other two products. So we need turrets and piercing rounds magazines for them. And both of these will be very simple. Really the challenge is actually going to be getting the resources to them. So let's go ahead and start with the ammo because it's probably the simpler of the two maybe, but the math is fairly simple for how many we need, right? The same way we figured out the grenades and everything else, we're just going to do some quick ratio math here. So we know that we are producing packs here, or we're consuming ingredients for the packs at a rate of 1 a second, right? We're actually producing 2 packs per second base rate because we're getting 2 per cycle here, remember? But we are only using 10 machines. So we need to match that with 1 per second of ammo. And we already figured out last episode that one normal ammo machine can supply 3 piercing rounds machines, right? Because these take 3 seconds in one ammo, and this makes one every 1 second, right? So this is actually going to be very simple. Now we could do direct insertion, and direct insertion is something I will get into more as we go forward, but also I do need to do research. The blinking does get a bit annoying. Let's do mod... Actually, let's do lasers for now. So yeah, basically, we could do direct insertion, meaning that we don't actually put like the first product on a belt. You know, direct insertion would maybe look something like this, where the first one, the one in the middle here is the normal magazines, and these are the piercing rounds. But this makes feeding them for this particular type of setup a little bit difficult. If it was like a 1 to 2, we could do it a lot simpler and a lot easier and just do something like that. But we're going to just put it on a belt for now because it should work fine this way. So first off, let's just go ahead and we're going to set this up and we're just going to put it over here. Let's go ahead and stick it, actually, yeah, we're going to put it, I want to leave enough room. Let's put it here. And this guy is going to be our normal ammo. And then we're going to do 3 of these. So these are going to be our piercing ammo. And this one is just going to go straight onto a belt to these 2 guys. So he's just going to export onto these 2. Or 3 rather. And then these also need steel and copper. So let's stick that on the other, actually not the other side. Let's stick this here. Actually, change of plans. So again, I'm looking at the ingredient amounts, right? This needs a firearm magazine and steel and copper. However, it needs 5 copper compared to only 1 of the others. So the same thing we discussed with choosing this outside belt here last episode is we want the higher demand thing to be closer so we can use fast inserters if we need to. So this one is actually going to be half copper, and then this one is actually going to be half piercing rounds and half steel. So long-handed inserter to get it here, and it will export on this far side of the belt, which means our steel needs to merge onto this bottom side here. All right, so our steel is actually not over here yet. We will have to go do that, but this guy is going to be copper, and then we're gonna need some iron, right? This guy takes iron, so this should be fairly simple. The iron is over here. Now, do we want to pull off of this? We probably can because both these things don't take a ton of iron. It's really the turrets that take a huge amount. So that's what we'll pull off of the other kind of dedicated belt. So let's go ahead, we can just split this again. I may end up reworking this later, you know, if this seems to not be enough throughput and such. But for now, we do want to just get this going. So that actually does not extend because these 3 do not need iron. So let's put that there. And he's going to be good to go. Now let's go ahead and drag over our steel. We're going to need to pick up some belt as well because steel is quite a ways away. But we do have a ton of it, which is good. Let's go here and just grab like half this belt. Laser turrets are done now, which is fantastic, although we haven't... Why can we not make them? Oh, laser turrets, there we go. For some reason, I thought it was one and the same. All right, so let's run up here. So this is gonna be iron. Now, once we actually get our bus going, some of this will shift over. So like this iron is not gonna be way over here. This iron's gonna be like, this one's gonna come over this way. And then this one will come over and so on and so forth. You know, they're not going to be this huge space apart. In fact, I probably should just do that now. But let's go ahead and get our steel being brought over. Now, it's in a box currently. I'm going to pull this up because I do actually want you know, I can't just like pull, I mean, this is an entire steel box of steel. So to get it on both sides of the belt, because I do want it on both, we're just going to do something here. Now, this is not ideal by any means, but let's also use a red belt, again, because remember, if you side load, you need to use a red belt, at least as of the time of this video, unless they fix it. You need to use a higher level belt to actually get compression. So that's going to do its thing. Now, we want to leave room, again, because these are all going to merge over, so we want to leave vertical room for that. And actually, let's bring this down. And he can come over somewhere over here. So these trees are, of course, like right in the way. And we'll just do that, and then we'll actually shoot them, again, using the C key. If I just target over these with the piercing ammo, it actually goes quite quickly. Just clear a little bit of a path here. All these trees will go eventually. But I want to get this set up because then I would like to work on oil, which I think quite a few people have been waiting for. So let's run this guy over. In fact, I'll actually speed myself up and run on the belt. Gives me a little bit of a speed boost. And for now, again, we probably will end up moving all this stuff over. The circuits will obviously be gone once we set up the main one, and then these will come over. Speaking of circuits, really quickly, someone did bring up a good point that once we go to red belt on this, it would potentially double its length, and there's not actually room here, so I think I need to scoot this whole thing back a bit. Luckily, it's only blueprinted yet, and I didn't start building it, which is really good. So let's actually, we'll leave this here for now. Let's scooch this guy over a little bit. Let's bring him down this way. Just to kind of start getting things in line, start bringing some organization here. And we'll just pick all this up, probably fill our inventory full of iron, I would imagine. But oil. So actually laser turrets do need military, so that was a bit of a silly research to get. Let's get modules, or the ability to get modules. And modules are things that are going to help us enhance our machines later on, and we'll explain that as we get there. But let's bring this, and we want room. We're gonna have 8 lanes of iron, so that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. There may be some on this side, but just to be safe, let's just bring this here. We can always move it over if we need to. Gonna throw a splitter just because I don't want to run the entire line. That should be good. Throw a splitter here. And run this over. So this is going to be the steel, and the turrets also actually do not need steel, but they need iron, and this is where we're going to have to bring this dedicated lane of iron over for these turrets, because they're going to eat this iron like crazy. In fact, it's probably still just going to, you know, chew through the whole lane of iron there. Alright, so let's just have him merge on the side, and then the last thing we need is just the copper. So, you know, this is really easy, kind of setting this up. Most of this time has been spent bringing the products over. So we're just going to run the copper. Now, at least the copper is on the bus, so it's not nearly as long as running the steel over. Modules are done. Let's go and get some modular armor, which is some upgraded armor we can get. We won't quite have the materials for it for a little bit, but having it already researched would be good. Alright, so this guy's here. Again, we want to try to underground these split-offs rather than the bus. And that's actually not gonna, well, it can work if I do this. There we go. Bring him over. And then we'll just underground here. And this actually needs to be this line. Okay, so that's fine. Now, we probably want to fire up another copper smelter. I won't do that on camera for you because it, you know, it's going to not be very entertaining. But I will want to fire up another copper smelter, probably simply because, you know, these turrets are going to take, you know, also 10 copper on top of all the iron and gears they're taking. So that's going to be there, and that guy is pretty much ready to go. We just need a couple long-handed inserters, and let's go ahead and get those made. And we'll just do something like that. Make some more power poles. Boom and boom. And then we just need to export, and that is obviously very easy. We'll just export here, and this is going to share a line, right, with the turret. So he's going to come this way. Make sure we don't bring this over. And he's going to merge. This is going to be a little wonky, right? But what we can do, actually, is he's going to go like that. The turrets can come over, whoop, from this direction. And then that'll make it easy. So, you know, it's not the cleanest thing ever. It certainly will work, though. And I mean, it's not too bad. So then the turrets will come over from this way. Now let's set up the turrets really quick, and then we will get on with some oil stuff. Just turn that off for now. So we need gears. How many gears we need? So we're gonna have 8 machines of these. Again, the same as the grenades. They take the same amount of time, and we need the same amount of them. So 8 of these, and we need 10 gears per. Doing 8 of these is again a base rate of 1 per second, which means that we essentially need 10 gears per second. Now gears craft in, here we go, gears craft in half a second. So, in 1 second we've made 2 gears from one assembler, right? And we need 10 per second. So if we can get 2 gears per second from one assembler, then we need 5 assemblers, right? Because 5 times 2 is 10. So we need 5 gear assemblers, and like I said, this is going to just absolutely chew through this iron like you wouldn't believe. But we're gonna go ahead and let's actually bring this out. So that's 5 gear assemblers. I believe I'm doing my math correctly, hopefully. That makes sense to me. So let's go ahead and have the iron come here, and then these will export on this side because the turrets are gonna be made over here somewhere. And we'll just have this, actually let's do that. Actually that's not really gonna help, but we don't do that. Let's do that. There we go. And iron, let's bring this entire dedicated lane of iron over here. So let's actually run this backwards. Sometimes building from the destination to the source, I find actually easier than trying to come from the source to where it needs to go. It may just be a personal preference, but I do find that typically to be easier. All right. And actually, I am going to just send this whole line down because, this is, and we'll split it down here since some iron, of course, does need to go to the turrets directly aside from the gears. So we'll split it like beforehand, like maybe here. But I will just send that entire line down the bus, or off the bus rather. Okay, so let's bring these here. Now, with level 2 assemblers, I believe we will need 2 inserters for input because it does actually take 2 iron, remember, to make a gear. So I'm gonna do 2 here, and our power is probably gonna be having some issues, maybe not. So let's make some more of these. And I will, once we get this kind of organized a bit, I will set up more of a section to actually, automate fast inserters and such like that, where I'm not constantly handcrafting them. So gears are gonna come here, and then we need 8 assemblers for the turrets. And we're just gonna grab some materials here, grab some circuits. All right. So 8 assemblers for the turrets. And this can come, so your first instinct may be to just grab off of this. I personally do not like doing that because it doesn't really guarantee even distribution. I mean, sure, we need 8, first of all, so that's not really gonna line up. If you only needed 5 turret machines, hypothetically, this would be a fantastic candidate for direct insertion because it's such high throughput. But 5 to 8 isn't really going to work for direct insertion in a decent way. So we can't really do that. But we're gonna do something a little bit silly here, and I may change this later. Actually, we could throw the turrets over here. This is a bit of an empty spot. No, we'll leave that for something else. We can probably tuck something else in there. So we're actually going to do something a little bit silly, and we're going to have this just simply do that. Because, again, I may change this, but for now we're going to do it this way. So that's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, and I just need to make this loop here a bit bigger. There we go. And then, so those are just going to be on one line on their own. And we're actually going to need probably an entire line for the iron and then the copper. So this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because, you're only limited. You can only do so many lanes here. Actually, all things considered, let's actually move this a little bit. And again, I know it's not perfect the first time doing this, but this is why I want to do it kind of on the fly, showing you on screen, because otherwise it's like, I don't think it shows the process very well if I just have a pre-made blueprint all set up and I just plop it down and try to explain to you why I did what I did, instead of actually just explaining it as I do it. To me, at least, that makes more sense. So this is 8. This is a little bit short. So what I've done is, because we actually needed another belt here, right? This can actually be our output belt. we can longhand output these onto there. So these are going to be the turrets. So let's copy this here. And then long-handed, let's make some more long-hand inserters. These are going to export, and we may probably need 2 fast inserters to actually import these gears here quick enough. But we'll have to see. I mean, it does take 8 seconds. I think these can probably insert 10 things in 8 seconds. So that's 2. Make some more. So that's those 2, and then these 2. Iron, again, we'll put closer because it's the higher input thing, higher throughput thing. Copper, we may be pressed to actually insert this much copper with long-handed inserters. This is when like stack inserters would be good, because we could then get away with probably 1 stack inserter and then 2 longhand inserters, but I believe for 20 iron we're going to need 2 fast inserters here. So we actually may be a little bit bottlenecked, which there are a few things we can do to solve that that we'll have to get into a bit later, because I don't really want to mess with that right now, but let's get this going. Yeah, hand making these gets a little bit old, huh? Alright. Let me pick up a little bit more iron and then some circuits. So you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. Now let's discuss oil while we're doing this, because I think I've done enough explaining for this setup. Oil. So for oil, you're going to need multiple types of buildings. You're going to need some refineries, and this is what's actually going to take the crude oil that you get out of the ground from the oil wells, and it's going to turn it into usable products, because the crude oil you can't actually do anything with really directly. So we're going to have that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use some chemical plants, and the chemical plants are what's actually going to make us most of these usable products, right? And there's many different ones that that you can do. So let's bring this over. You can, you can do, if we look here really quick, solid fuel, which is just another fuel. It's essentially a step above the, I'm going to grab some of these grenades too. It's essentially a step above coal. You can see fuel values. So like this fuel value is 25 megajoules compared to coal, which is 8 megajoules. And this is made from any of the 3 outputs from oil. So from oil, you get 3 outputs. You get heavy oil, which is that red one there on the left, light oil, which is the middle one, and then petroleum gas, which is the far right one. And these icons, correspond to that, so it's pretty easy to tell. You can make things from all of these. And then you can also make lubricant, which is made from heavy oil. And this lubricant is something that is primarily going to be used for things like electric engines. It is required in the highest level express transport belts as well. So you will need a fair bit there if you're going to use a lot of high level express belts, which we will be doing, because we are going to build a Megabase here, so going to be using a lot of those. But the solid fuel, solid fuel will be needed much later for rocket stuff, but I usually don't do much with solid fuel unless I have really big coal problems, like for my steam power. The main thing, I would say one of the most important ingredients, is going to be this petroleum gas that you get, because it's going to be used for the 2 staples, plastic as well as batteries. Now there's an extra step required to actually turn it into batteries, which we'll go into once we set it up. But you'll find that a lot of your shortages are probably going to be petroleum, and you're probably going to be wanting any way possible to get it. So later on, you can actually do what's called cracking. You can get this advanced oil processing, if we just search it here. And this will allow cracking, which lets you turn heavy oil into light oil, but more importantly, it lets you turn light oil into petroleum, which is what we'll be doing, and what a lot of late game bases do, rather than just barreling it or tanking it or whatever. You'll be turning it into petroleum. Okay, so this is going to be going. This guy's going there. This guy's going here. Like I said, I don't think that the copper can actually keep up with these long-handed inserters. Some stack bonus. Probably, can we still get? Okay, we don't have blue science yet, but I just want to double check and make sure this does work-ish. It's getting some gears very slowly. The problem here is these guys actually are backing up this belt. So we could make this red belt. We could do, if we weren't so scrunched, we could do some tricks to get it to be on 2 sides, which would actually be the ideal thing to do. But for now, we're going to go ahead and send this up here. And that's actually our military science done. So we'll leave that for now. It's not going to be super optimal, but I want to start working on oil. So these refineries, we're going to need some stone brick. We have everything else, so I'm going to actually grab a bit of circuits and a bit of steel and everything else pretty much. So let's start making some chemical plants. All right, we're going to need a fair bit of these. And there is, of course, as you would imagine, there is a ratio for this as well, for refineries to chemical plants that will be used later on in the cracking I mentioned. Right off the bat, you don't really need a ratio, aside from some of the products like batteries and such. It'll make more sense once we get there, but I am going to preset it up for the ratios because it's going to be a lot easier than trying to change it all later down the road, right? And when we do go to expand it, we will also be expanding it in a set of those ratios, which is an important thing to note because, you know, if you just willy-nilly add more, then you're going to have backups or shortages. And this guy's actually, speaking of shortages, out of coal. But we have a fair bit of brick. Just going to grab that. And we are going to be, what are we going to be out of here? Something. Iron to make gears. All right. Well, we have, luckily, a box of gears down here. But yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start out with making 8 of these. And the ratio is going to be 8-7-1. And this refers to 8 refineries to 7 chemical plants cracking the light oil into petroleum, and then 1 chemical plant cracking the heavy oil into light oil. Okay, so again, this is a pre-setup. We don't have cracking yet, but we're going to set up at least the amount of refineries we need to achieve that later down the road. And then, you know, we're probably going to need quite a bit more than that due to the size of the base we're building, but it'll be easy then to just double it. We can just double it, so just do a whole nother set of that ratio and connect it together. And why we do this ratio is because it leaves no products, no extra products. And I'm coming over here because I'm thinking, you know, our only water is here. There is water over here, but there's, which actually probably would be good. There's biters here. This would actually be ideal, I would imagine. Or even over here. Because there is oil here, but that's going to require train stuff, which we don't have yet. And our main oil is here. I think we could set up a temporary thing. You know, this isn't going to be too hard to move as long as I don't go overboard with it. Power shouldn't extend. Power's mostly going to go up, more so than down. So we could actually do oil kind of in this area. It's going to be a ways to like bring anything, but I want to just show you the basic principles here. So, oh, well, there's actually a little teeny pond here. Well, hey, that's perfect. Anyway, what I was getting into is that ratio leaves no extra products, right? It consumes, so the 7 things cracking light oil into petroleum are consuming all the light oil the refineries produce, plus the light oil that the 1 cracker from heavy is doing, and then the 1 cracker from heavy is using up all the heavy oil, right? And then all your petroleum from all of that is going towards, you know, all the stuff that needs it. So that's why the ratio is important, because otherwise you get backed up products and you have to put them in tanks, which isn't the end of the world, but you know, it's a little bit of a waste sometimes. So we're just going to clear this area out a bit and set it up right over here. There's nothing, you know, off the top of my head that really needs to go here. So let's go ahead and just clear these darn trees out of the way, not kill ourselves in the process, hopefully. And we'll just kind of stop there. All right, so I don't have time to set it all up. You know, we took a while on the military, but I do want to kind of show you what this might look like. So you could just plop them down in a row like this, and it's okay. But I prefer to actually leave a bit of space between them. I prefer to leave 1 space between them. 1, I think it actually just looks a little better. 2, it allows you to put power poles in between them. And 3, it's going to be a bit better for our output spacing. So we go on and we click this. So for 100 crude oil, we're going to be given 30 heavy oil, 30 light oil, and 40 petroleum. And this is what the output's going to look like. And they're always here, right? They're always, you know, petroleum is always going to be on this slot. Light's always on this slot. Heavy's always on this slot. And there is something worth noting here before we get farther in. When you go to do the advanced stuff, when you it also unlocks a new oil refining recipe. Advanced oil processing. And this will give you more of what you need and less of what you don't need, right? So this heavy oil is greatly reduced from what we can do now, right? It's 10 instead of the 30. And then, you know, the light oil is actually a little bit more, 45, and the petroleum is a lot more, quite a bit more. But what I'm getting to here is it needs a water input. Now, for the longest time, I always would get super frustrated because I'd build this out and I would never remember what side the water goes on. And then when I change it over, the water would be on the wrong side and I'd be putting oil where water goes and then so on and so forth. So I can tell you now, though, water will always be on the side closest to the heavy oil. Okay, it's always going to be on this side. Now, I would say the right side in this case, but you know, if these are flipped a different way, that doesn't really apply. But it's always going to be on the slot that's closest to this heavy oil output, right? That's where the water input's going to go for your advanced oil processing. So that's an easy way to remember because now we can set this up knowing that water is going to go here, so we don't want to put oil into this slot. We want to put it into this slot because that's where oil is still going to go once we change the recipe over. Okay, so that's just a quick note. Now, as a finishing thing for this video, I want to show you quickly how I do the outputs. People do different variations of this. You can do it differently if you want. Of course, this is what I've done and what I prefer because it's fairly straightforward. If you put them all even, you're going to have some problems because, I mean, you could bring them in straight out and then somewhere, but you can't cross them because, you know, underground pipes, you can't have two going in the same direction on the same plane. So, like, you know, if this goes here, and if I make another one really quick, and this goes here, it's going to connect and it's going to disconnect this. And let me tell you, pipe pollution, pipe mixing and fluid mixing is one of the worst things that can happen to you. It is so annoying to fix. Like if you get petroleum in your light oil pipe, then it just goes into everything and you have to tear everything up or pump it out with something. So this is not really going to be good because it's potential pipe contamination. But if you do them at different lengths, like 1, 2, 3, or whatever you want to do, just so they're all each a different length, then this is going to allow you to simply do something like this, right? So petroleum to petroleum, so on down the line, and then light oil to light oil, so on down the line, and then same with heavy, and then you can output them to wherever you want, right? So I'm going to finish up the pipes on this off camera, just because, you know, it's a little bit boring. But next episode, we will get the oil actually pumping, and then probably we will need to bring in some oil. And actually, with this water here, this may actually just be a decent spot to just do our oil. There's plenty of room. So we're going to work on this next episode, and then we'll get plastic definitely set up and batteries definitely set up. I plan to get it all done next episode since it was a bit delayed. And I hope you guys are looking forward to that. It should be good. Military science is done, which is awesome. I don't think I didn't send it to the labs yet. And we also need a radar over here so we can zoom in like this. But I think things are coming along pretty nicely. Episode 7, we have red, green, military science done, oil on the way. And next episode, we will have oil done as well. And then we can start working on advanced circuits and blue circuits and all that, which is going to be awesome. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found it helpful. If you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below and I will do my best to respond, or somebody else will. Community is really awesome with that. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.